WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and many thanks for tuning into West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. The Islamic State group reportedly gains ground in Mali, establishing cells in multiple localities. Over 1,000 rounds of ammunition discovered in Liberia's Nimba County.
They have created fear and very much a state of confusion among the citizens as to what is happening, who are those behind these arms and ammunition that have been discovered in different places within the country.
Burkina Faso authorities discloses the seizure of fake banknotes worth 550 million CFA francs. And Ghana is on the list of 54 countries the UK government bans from employment in the health sector.
The nurses in this country are very much committed and they want to serve the good people of this country. But unfortunately, we are not being given conditions of service.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is James Adjapong with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us. Our top story is from Mali, where the Islamic State group is reportedly making significant advances. Recent reports suggest that the terrorist network is establishing cells in multiple localities throughout the country, with the group seizing control of Tindamene on Monday afternoon and surrounding other areas in northeastern Mali. Tofik Abdul Nasir has more in this developing story.
After taking over the town of Tindamene on Monday, jihadists from the Sahel branch of the Islamic State group have surrounded the town of Menaka. The occupation of the town of Tindamene is already worrying the population. According to local sources, several people have fled via various circles bound for the town of Menaka. This is the umpteenth occupation of a locality in this area, which deprives the town of Menaka of its last northern access route. The populations of this circle fear that their supplies may be blocked. The president of the Menaka circle, Sidi Baraka, spoke of a total emergency. He called on the transitional authorities and their various partners to deal with the situation. For the moment, there is no official reaction from the government. The United Nations multidimensional mission in Mali, in the meantime, says the situation is calm. It should be noted that the Menaka region has been overcrowded for the past year due to the displacement of people who fled attacks in neighboring communes. According to official United Nations figures, the population of Menaka has increased from 11,000 to more than 30,000.
Tofik Abdul Nasir for that report. Let's cross over to Liberia, where a significant discovery of over 1,000 rounds of ammunition is made in Blackie Town, Nimba County, by a 16-year-old. Local reports indicate that the discovery, which includes AK-47 and JMG rounds along with 7 empty shells, has caused concern among residents in the area. The ammunition has been handed over to the Ganta Police Detachment for further investigation. Abdullahi Hassan reports.
Local media reported a 16-year-old boy, Arlington Busu, as making the discovery when he had gone to clean the backyard of his parents' home. The area is adjacent to the residence of notorious Ivorian armed robber Abu Wemi, who is currently detained at the Sanikwele Central Prison in the same Nimba County. Although the discovery has created panic among residents of Ganta City as well as the government, prompting timely investigations, the commercial district has suffered several armed robberies. This recent discovery over the weekend only adds to the list of others made in the last 6 months in the country. WADR made contact with the Liberian Police Public Relations Officer, Moses Carter, but refused to comment as the matter, according to him, is being investigated. Adama Dempster, a human rights activist, says more questions are today being asked.
They have created fear and very much a state of confusion among the citizens as to what is happening, who are those behind these arms and ammunition that have been discovered in different places within the country.
Months into Liberia's presidential and general elections, the country's history of civil war stares at the future. Dempster urges quick and immediate intervention.
In October of this year, we are going to election. We know the issue of election in Africa, and Liberia is no exception. People will want to use as supporters to disturb the election once perhaps they feel that things are not going their way. They want to use other means to disturb the election. From a human rights perspective, it is of a concern, and we are asking the government through the security apparatus and the Justice Ministry to do an impartial, thorough investigation.
It should be noted that Nimba County was the epicenter of the 1989 rebel incursion in Liberia by jailed former Liberian President Charles Taylor.
Abdullahi Hassan filed that report. We head to Burkina, where the General Directorate of Customs on Tuesday announced the seizure of counterfeit dollar notes worth over 550 million CFA francs and 56 counterfeit gold bars on Sunday, March 19, 2023 in Ouagadougou. As Oge Obiorika reports, the customs officials also seized Air Force stripes, 2 customs berets, communication devices, and fake customs stamps.
The successful operation was conducted in the city of Ouagadougou by the Customs Research and Intervention Brigade, BRI, with support from the Basque Police. According to the authorities, the BRI's intelligence network helped them to track down and arrest 2 accomplices of the suspect, who is still at large. The suspect is believed to be Somalia Ilbudu, a former president of the National Union of Stallion Supporters from 2006 to 2007, according to concordant sources. Private Radio Omega also reported that the suspect was implicated in a forgery and attempted fraud case involving the use of forged private documents in 2021. Counterfeit currency has been a long-standing problem in Burkina Faso. In recent years, the country has seen an increase in the circulation of fake currency notes, including counterfeit US dollars and local CFA francs. The rise in counterfeiting has been linked to the political and economic instability of the region and the porous borders. In response to this challenge, the Burkinabe government has implemented various measures to tackle the issue of counterfeit currency, including the introduction of new security features on banknotes, public awareness campaigns, and the strengthening of law enforcement agencies. The authorities have called on the public to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activities related to the circulation of counterfeit currency.
Oge Obiorika with that report.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
If you are just tuning in, this is Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. We head to the Gambia, where the latest Afrobarometer survey reveals that more than half of Gambians believe their government is strongly committed to implementing the recommendations of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC. The majority of the populace is also demanding the extradition of former President Yahya Jammeh for prosecution. Here is our Banjul correspondent Sankule Janko with more on the story.
The proportion of citizens demanding the extradition of Jammeh to face prosecution has weakened, but more Gambians are now calling for perpetrators of crimes and human rights abuses during Jammeh's regime to be tried in court. The Gambia government is taking steps to implement TRRC recommendations by working with partners to draft legislation for the establishment of a Victims Fund and a Peace Commission. Nonetheless, the majority of Gambians are still pressing for Jammeh to be prosecuted for his alleged crimes, with over half of them supporting the government in their effort to press for his extradition. According to the latest Afrobarometer survey, more than half, 55% of Gambians believe that the Adama Barrow-led government has shown a strong commitment to implementing the recommendations of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC, while 1/3, 33% of citizens disagree. A large majority of Gambians, 76%, believe that the country should reconcile and move on now that the TRLC has completed its work. To implement the TRLC's recommendations, the Gambian government is working with partners to draft legislation for the establishment of a victims fund and a peace commission. For Newslink and West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankula Jank reporting from Banjul.
Let's get back to Liberia as the National Elections Commission completes the first phase of voter registration for the upcoming presidential and legislative elections scheduled for October 10, 2023. Phase 1 of the voter registration was conducted in 6 of Liberia's 15 political subdivisions recently by the Commission to Liberians aged 18 and above. Darlington Pogba has a report.
The Commission's chairperson, Deviata Brown-Lassana, announced at a news conference on Tuesday that the turnout of citizens aged 18 and above was great, despite the numerous challenges facing the Commission.
The Commission reports that the just-ended biometric voter registration in Phase 1 was very successful because you, Liberians, 18 years and above, turned out in great numbers and were registered even with the initial glitches, technical problems, and field challenges, which of course the Commission's technical and administrative teams resolved on site. The Commission extends thanks to all temporary staff for your commitment and dedicated services.
However, the head of the Elections Coordinating Committee, Oscar Blow, has expressed concerns about the mass trucking of voters from one region to another by political candidates. He has called on political parties and ordinary Liberians to assist state security in limiting the practice.
You can understand that our security cannot be present everywhere at every time. So therefore, to mitigate any risk or potential for violence, we're calling on political parties and people who are contesting seats to adhere to the laws and to refrain from the movement of people from one place to the next so that we can begin this process in a peaceful way and so that the quality of our voter registration can be of standard that will set the basis.
Despite this challenge, the National Elections Commission has vowed to ensure a successful and transparent election process on October 10, 2023. For Newslink on WADR, I am Darlington Pogba reporting from Monrovia.
Nigeria's National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has recently received 152 Nigerian returnees from Libya. These returnees arrived at the Murtala Muhammed International Airport in Lagos. Abuja correspondent Usman Umar has more.
The arrival of the returnees was announced Tuesday by NEMA's Zonal Coordinator for Southwest, Ibrahim Farinloye. In a statement, Farinloye said the returnees departed Libya aboard a chartered Al Burak Air Boeing 737-800. As part of routine for welcoming the returnees to the country, the Director General of NEMA, Mustafa Habib Ahmed, alongside officials of the Nigeria Immigration Service, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, Refugee Commission, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, and the Nigeria Police Force were all on ground to receive them. 54 females, 73 males, 7 children, and 3 infants were on board the plane upon arrival at the airport. Some of the returnees had serious medical conditions and were evacuated to the hospital for adequate attention. In the last 12 months, Nigeria has welcomed thousands of its citizens from countries across the world, especially since the lifting of restrictions imposed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But for many stuck in Libya, it is believed that they add to the statistics of irregular migrants who must have embarked on the treacherous journey. The United Nations Migration Agency, IOM, and the Nigeria Embassy in Libya is assisting stranded Nigerians back home after their failed attempt to cross the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
More on migration issues, Mauritanian authorities report the dismantling of an illegal migrant smuggling network operating on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. The police arrested several members of the network in Nouakchott, including 4 foreign nationals whose nationalities have not been disclosed and 1 Mauritanian. The network was caught in the act of attempting to smuggle 28 people of African and Asian origin, but further details of the place and date of arrest remain undisclosed. Marty C. with more details on this development.
The dismantling of this latest smuggling network, authorities say, is a positive step towards reducing the number of illegal migrants and criminal networks involved in human trafficking in the region. According to experts, the Mauritanian authorities are to be commended for their ongoing efforts to combat human trafficking and illegal migration. However, it is important for countries in the region to work together to address this issue and provide better opportunities and living conditions for their citizens to reduce the incentive to undertake dangerous and illegal journeys. Reiterating that, while the dismantling of this network is a positive development, there is still much work to be done to address the root causes of migration and human trafficking in the region. The city of Nouadhibou, located on the Atlantic coast, is a popular destination for African migrants looking to reach Europe via the Canary Islands. Mauritania has long been a destination and transit point for migrants from other African countries seeking better economic opportunities in Europe. Many of these migrants are forced to rely on smugglers who exploit them and expose them to dangerous and often deadly conditions during their journey.
Marty C. for that report. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. The Islamic State group reportedly gains ground in Mali, establishing itself in multiple localities. Over 1,000 rounds of ammunition discovered in Liberia's Nimba County. Burkina Faso authorities discloses a seizure of fake banknotes worth 550 million CFA francs. And Ghana is on the list of 54 countries the UK government bans from employment in the health sector. Still ahead, we have our guest interview and some sports updates. Kindly stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
This is West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, and we are streaming all around the world on WADR.org. Let's turn attention to Ghana finally, as it includes a list of 54 countries the UK government has identified as not to be actively targeted for recruitment by health and social care employers. This announcement comes as the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association reports that more than 3,000 nurses and midwives have already left the country in search of better opportunities due to poor conditions of service and unfair salary scales. Atiarene Bela Lawson in Accra brings us more details.
The United Kingdom Code of Practice for International Recruitment states that some developing countries, including Ghana, should not be targeted when actively recruiting health or social care professionals. A release on the National Health Service website stated that the countries listed have a universal health coverage index that is lower than 50 and a density of doctors, nurses and midwives that is below the global median, which currently stands at 48.6 per 10,000 population. However, the list does not prevent individual health and social care personnel from independently applying to health and social care employers for employment in the UK on their own accord and without being targeted by a third party such as a recruitment agency or an employer. This is of concern to health analysts because the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association says the government has over the years failed to implement collectively agreed conditions of service, causing mass migration of healthcare workers. David Tenkorang Chum is General Secretary of the association.
Upon our conditions of service, as far as the salary is concerned, our people will stay. Some of us have stayed in this country despite the paltry salary that we have received. So it's not everybody who wants to travel outside this country. Okay, our people are committed. The nurses in this country are very much committed, and they want to serve the good people of this country. But unfortunately, we are not being given conditions of service.
In addition to Ghana, other West African countries placed on the red list of no active recruitment under the code include Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Guinea, Liberia, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Togo. Reporting for Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson in Accra.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
On our guest interview this afternoon, Child Protection Alliance, CPA, a civil society organization in the Gambia that advocates for the rights of children, has called on the Barrow-led government to prosecute perpetrators involved in the acute kidney injuries that killed 72 children after drinking contaminated cough syrups imported from India. The institution also called on the government to take a holistic approach to prevent the reoccurrence of such a tragedy. Lamin Fati is the National Coordinator of Child Protection Alliance in the Gambia.
Well, I think our expectation wouldn't be any different initially before the president coming to institute the task force. Because when this incident happened, we have been always been calling on the government to make sure that at the end of the day, the government was able to do a proper assessment of the entire procedure and processes in which these contaminated drugs were imported in the country. And if anyone or any institution is found wanting, we anticipate that the government should be able to if there's a need for prosecution, the government should be able to bring forward those people that are found wanting. But equally, I think we want to see kind of like a holistic approach to the entire process to make sure that at the end of the day, it's not only trying to deal with this specific issue as an isolated case, but generally to do a general assessment of the health facility in this country, so that at the end of the day, the government will be able to come up with concrete recommendation to make sure that at the end of the day, some similar incident will never occur in the near future.
I mean, so many people are also calling for prosecutions if the need be. For example, many people accused, pharmaceutical from that, of course, imported drugs. From your own perspective, as a CSO as well as protecting, children, what would you expect in this angle based on the report's findings?
Well, basically, the findings shouldn't be outside the scope of the legal framework. We have already, Gambia has what we call the Medicine Control Act, and also they have the same regulation attached to that. So basically, the importation and regulation of drug-related importation-related matter, drugs and its-related product being imported and distributed in this country has been captured in the Act. And obviously, you have an agency that is responsible to make sure that any drug and its-related products coming to the Gambia must be safe for consumption, whereas any person who actually import any drug-related product that causes harm or injury to another person, then there would be what we call prosecution. And obviously, if such an incident happened in this country, we think that there's a violation of that particular act. So therefore, we will anticipate that the government actually will have to do a prosecution of individuals who are responsible, but equally also to the institutions that are also found wanting us to importing these contaminant drugs in this country.
Would you like to say anything else, as a Child Protection Alliance advocate?
Well, I think today is a special day, having to realize that the task force that has been instituted by the President has submitted a report on the findings and also make recommendations as the way forward for the President to act on. So, as usual, sometimes, personally myself, I am not too optimistic with reports. We've seen this is a country where we have series of reports, series of commissions, and when it comes to the enforcement and implementation of the recommendation, becomes nil. But at the end of the day, for us as civil society, is to go back to the accountability framework to make sure that at the end of the day, we study the recommendation and to ensure that government is able to, we hold government to account to make sure to enforce that. Mind me, government is an entity, a legal entity that could be sued and can also sue. So on behalf of civil society and also on behalf of the family.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Talking about the government can be sued and, because it's a legal entity, if the CSOs are not pleased with whatever the outcome or if they feel the government is not acting, is there a possibility of legal action against the government? Because you've spoken about
the stakes is very high. The stake is very high around having to prosecute the government, because at the end of the day, the government is duty bound as the primary duty bearer to ensure the safety of every related drug coming to the Gambia. So you don't have a situation where the government is perceived to be the cause of the death of about 70 plus children in this country. So that is you can't just let that go off the hook. So it's either government should be able to do the right thing, and or CSOs together with the victims will actually seek to have a redress, which obviously would be through the legal means. So then there's a high tendency that we could be able to sue the government on this basis.
Lamin Fati is the National Coordinator of Child Protection Alliance in the Gambia. And here is Sankule Janko with some sports updates.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Senegal international Sadio Mane and his Bayern Munich side endured a nightmare in Manchester after a 3-0 defeat by Manchester City in the UEFA Champions League on Tuesday night. In the other Champions League, Inter Milan were 2-0 winners against Benfica on Tuesday night. Meanwhile, Napoli will miss the services of Nigerian international Victor Osimhen in the UEFA Champions League quarter-final first leg against fellow Italian side AC Milan tonight. Osimhen has reportedly failed to recover in time from a thigh injury and will not be involved on Wednesday. Alhaji Mansuri, a sports journalist in Sierra Leone, says,
I think it's going to be a massive miss for Napoli, looking at how important Victor Osimhen has been to the team and how they have been playing this season, how he has been contributing. I mean, he has this unprecedented goal-scoring record for Napoli at the moment. So going into a big game against AC Milan without Victor Osimhen is going to be a big problem for them. Already in the Serie A, they played against the Rossoneri. We saw how the Rossoneri manhandled Napoli by 4-0. We also saw Victor Osimhen not being able to play a part in that particular game. So it's going to be a big miss for them.
Meanwhile, all eyes will be on record champions Real Madrid when they take on Senegal international Kalidou Koulibaly's Chelsea side in the UEFA Champions League tonight at the Santiago Bernabeu in Madrid. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Thank you, Sankule, for that sports update. We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to our listeners in the Gambia via Hot 104.3 FM Banjul, and in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM Lofa County, and in Ghana Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi. Christian Mukidi has been on the console. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek for our Facebook Live coverage. Do interact with us via our social media platforms on Twitter and Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is a rebroadcast of our agenda program 50-50 with Atiawin Bella Lawson. I am James Adjapong. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music. Get it all 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.